Microsoft on October 26th is going to launch Windows 8. And alongside Windows 8, they're going to launch their new line of computers running, no, not Windows 8, running Windows RT. The version of Windows that doesn't run any of your Windows apps. I mean, it's like a joke. It's unbelievable to me. It's just, how could you do that and not effectively communicate what you're doing to people?
Paul Thurrott over here, he's an author of something called a book without an E in front of it. It's Windows 8 Secrets. Also, all kinds of places on the web you can find him. Paul, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, aside from the fact that I can't see.
You can't see. Why is that?
I just had my pupils dilated today, so I had a whole little.
Does that make the news easier to bear when you can't read it?
Yeah, it's better if I can't see it. Microsoft something, what the?
That is actually one of the products that we'll be talking about, Microsoft something, what the? Now, the pricing was made available, obviously, because it's available for pre-order. $499 for a 32 gigabyte without a touch cover. And if you want to get one with a touch cover, $599. The 64 gigabyte model, $699, and that comes with a black touch cover. It doesn't appear on the site that you can actually customize what cover you get right away. It seems like there's only 3 options. Is there some kind of secret to this site that I don't know about?
No, there's no secret. Nope, that's it. I actually think that it's too expensive, and I don't think it's actually very competitive on price. And I also think that it's done on purpose, that this is a little bone they threw to their PC maker partners, their hardware partners, because unless something has changed, and of course other companies are releasing their own prices for their own devices, but back in August, I had received some documentation about the prices for the third-party RT devices that were going to be coming out, and none of them were under $500. I mean, they were all $499 was the very cheapest one, and then they went up to, I want to say, I don't remember off the top of my head, maybe $899. That's an expensive little price range. I mean, that's, I don't think they should be as cheap as netbooks, but they need to be between ultrabooks and netbooks. This seems like an expensive price range to me. The other issue, and by the way, when you talk about how these things compare to other devices, I would just remind you that iPads and Android tablets have an incredible software and content ecosystem that backs those devices. Microsoft does not have that. They may have that someday, but the Surface device, as it goes on sale on October 26th, it's a big bet to take as a consumer that this thing, A, is going to take off, and B, that ecosystem around it will take off as well. So it's really not that straightforward. I really think they needed to price these things under the competition for the pricing to actually make sense.
The crazy thing is a lot of news has been coming out about other OEMs, like Acer, I believe. They have Intel-based tablets coming out for $499 as well. You have the full suite of all of the old Windows software. It just seems like, why would anybody, unless they were, miseducated about, why would they pick a RT version when you could go with an 8 at the same price?
So we'll have to see, right? Because, the pre-release tablet that I have, it runs like a jet engine. It's got a loud fan, whatever. But when I was in New Zealand and got to play with some of these tablets, the one that really blew me away was an x86 device made by Acer and Acer Iconia. I think it was a W700. Beautiful, thin, just great-looking machine. And, yeah, I had the same reaction. Why would you take the chance? A lot of people are saying, oh, you don't get it. These things are really simple. They only run Metro apps. It's what people want, Yeah, it's what they want until they go to their favorite website and it tells them they need to download some plugin and they can't. Or, oh yeah, I got to get iTunes. Oh, that doesn't work on RT. Or, Adobe Photoshop Elements or Windows Essentials, which includes Photo Gallery and the SkyDrive application. There's all these things that just don't work there. Now, it may work there eventually, right? I mean, eventually we're going to see, hopefully, Metro-style apps that take the place of those other applications, or maybe even Microsoft might port some of its own desktop apps to RT in a bid to make it more viable in the marketplace. But this first version it's a big risk for someone as a consumer to buy into. When you bought an iPad in 2010, that thing could run iPhone apps. Now today that's laughable, right? Who would want to run an iPhone app on an iPad? But at least there was that capability. You can't even run Windows Phone apps on this thing. So, I mean, you're literally starting from scratch. So there's no backlog of stuff you can run on it. When you buy a Windows 8 tablet, you can at least bring forward all your old stuff. I mean, looking down at my own taskbar, I do use iTunes, even though I hate it. I use Visual Studio. I use, Skype. I use Windows Live Messenger. I use Windows Photo Gallery. I use Photoshop and Word, and I use these, desktop applications. It's nice to be able to make the transition to this kind of mobile computing world of the future by bringing forward some of those applications, and that's just not possible in RT. What's going to happen is a lot of these people are going to get one of these things, and they'll need one of those, It will be the thing that allows them to play a game on a website or, something that you just can't anticipate where it just doesn't work, It's a maturity of the platform issue. Eventually this won't be, hopefully it'll be next year. Hopefully it'll be 6 months from now. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I just get, based on my email, a lot of people have ordered these things, and then you can tell from the questions they ask me that they have no idea what they just bought. They have no idea.
Yep.
So they say, I know it comes with Office, but I want to run Outlook, so I can just install that from my setup disk, right? Yikes. No, you can't. And it's amazing to me how much of that email I get.
So, Paul, you seem to be of the mind that Microsoft is not educating the customer or consumer very well when it comes to Windows RT versus 8. We had a bit of a war of the words on Twitter about Microsoft not if you can't explain Windows, if you can't explain Windows RT.
We had a joking exchange.
Yes, hardly a war. It's more of it's like a food fight. If you can't explain Windows RT to normal people, what's the market for Windows RT? Again, I don't get this. So you're getting,
it's like Windows, but it doesn't run Windows. But or here's one for you. Microsoft on October 26th is going to launch Windows 8. And alongside Windows 8, they're going to launch their new line of computers running not Windows 8, running Windows RT. The version of Windows that doesn't run any of your Windows apps. I mean, it's like a joke. It's unbelievable to me. It's just, how could you do that and not effectively communicate what you're doing to people? It's like they're how do they not get that? It's amazing. It's just amazing.
Is this just a name issue? Because they're calling it Windows. Go ahead, Mary Jo. I didn't mean to speak over you.
Yeah, it's really not just a name issue. And it's, to me, one very interesting thing about this week. So, on Monday, Microsoft invited a bunch of journalists to Redmond, go to Studio, I think it's called Studio B, where they make the Surface, right? So they let them tour around and write articles afterwards about it. If you look at the articles that were written, they're all about the process of building the Surface. Like they show you the laser etching equipment and how they do testing and all that. They don't talk at all in these articles about Windows RT, and what they saw was the Surface RT, right? So Microsoft is intently, I think, trying to blur the lines, and it's not going to be good when consumers realize this, but they're trying to blur the lines and say, Windows RT, it's just Windows 8, even though it's not called Windows 8. It's just another Windows 8 SKU. And I think this is going to backfire on them because they are trying to blur the lines and make it seem like it's just one big happy Windows 8 family when it really is not one.
But today, I mean, Windows RT is like Windows 8 with a lobotomy. There are 1.3 billion people using Windows today. Every app that runs on those Windows computers will not run on Windows RT. Every single one of them. It just doesn't compute. I mean, I get that they need it. I get that this is the future. I get where it's going. But we live in today, not the world of 2 years from now or 5 years from now. I think that it's weird that there's a desktop because that further leads to this confusion. That when you see the desktop as a normal person, obviously you make that connection. Well, it runs these apps. I can go download Skype, or obviously there'll be a Skype app, but I mean, I can go download whatever app I need or a browser plug. You don't even think about it. Why would it not work? It's Windows, That's always been the beautiful thing about Windows, this compatibility that they brought forward. So they don't do it this time. And there are strengths to that. There are good reasons for that. And eventually this will be in some ways the superior version simply because it doesn't bring forward the legacy deadwood. And it's nice that they have this choice. I just think it's weird that on day one, they'll have an RT device, not a Windows 8 device. They'll sell the Windows 8 software in the stores, and they'll let their partners sell Windows 8 devices. It's just a weird mix of things, and it does confuse the matter. Not just somewhat. I mean, a lot. And again, I'm I'm basing this on the now several hundred emails that I've gotten where they're depressingly simple-minded questions that clearly betray that these people have no idea what they're talking about, which is not their fault. And they're not stupid people. It's just Microsoft hasn't done a good job of explaining what's happening.
This isn't clear to anybody?
Okay, okay, fair enough. I'd like to choose Windows 8 RT. I'd like to choose Windows 8 Surface. So where do you click to buy that?
That's not an option.
Oh, but that's weird. Why would I have to choose
because
that?
Windows RT contains many of the same features as Windows 8 and also contains some different features. It doesn't say anything like it's got very limited situations, but it does say, although you can install apps directly from the Windows Store, you can't install apps on the desktop on Windows RT. So they are telling you that.
Right, but hold on one second. Right there, you're actually highlighting something that I feel Microsoft is also doing wrong. They're calling everything apps. You can install apps, but you can't install apps. Right? You can install apps from the Windows Store. That suggests that apps from the Windows Store are like apps on the desktop, but they're not. Those are two completely different platforms. I call desktop apps applications because I want to very, very precise that there's a difference between these things. Today, as a Windows user, you can browse to any website that has downloadable software. You can download it and install it. If you have a Windows RT device, you cannot do that. You can't go into Best Buy. I was walking around, blind as a bat today, and I was looking at some software. And it was like Quicken and, these photo editing apps that were in the store and all this stuff. And none of these things run on Windows RT, And I get it. The world's moving on. I've heard this. I've heard there's a cloud and there's internet software. I get that. But this stuff is just here today. This is the normal existence for people right now, today. And none of that stuff works. And that little thing you were showing there doesn't really do a good job of highlighting that fact. The way to sell Windows RT is not to say, number one, it doesn't do a lot of stuff. I mean, I get that. They're marketing a product. I get it. The iPad doesn't run Mac software. Got it. But, the iPad did run iPhone software. I mean, there was a stepping stone to it. You had something to hold you over until there was a lot of native stuff. It's a problem. I mean, it really is a problem. This is a tough one because I've said in the past, and I certainly believe this, that, Microsoft very specifically does the Metro thing on purpose, right? They want to get you used to this because this is the future as they see it, the future of their own platform. And so for Microsoft, that is a good move. For customers, a better move would have been to understand what the device was and act accordingly. And that if you boot up Windows 8 on a desktop computer like I do, the first time it boots up, it should go to the desktop. And it should bring up a little thing that says, hey, by the way, you can do this, this, and this if you want. Here's how you can do it. And when you bring it up on a tablet, it should come up in the Metro environment because that's how you're going to want to use it on that device. But it should be configurable for the user. That's how something like that becomes user-centric, not Microsoft-centric. I appreciate why they did it. I sort of agree that they, agree that they did it. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, I mean, I'm not here to prop up Microsoft. I'm not a Microsoft cheerleader or a Microsoft supporter. I am someone who supports Microsoft's users, like Mary Jo does as well. And I don't know. It's not the best thing for users ultimately.
Out of their site. So I'm sure they haven't been seeding their store employees with these devices way early and saying, hey, let's get you up to speed. I bet they're just starting now to get them up to speed, right? And
right. And they're using like a cardboard box to pretend that it's a Surface because nobody can touch these.
Hey, so pretend this is a computer, right?
Yeah. If this was a computer, it could run just as much Windows software as Surface can.
But wait a second now. If these are people at the Microsoft Store, I would think these are a particular kind of people that take a job at Microsoft because it's not exactly like
a particular kind of person.
I would think, well, it's not just like a regular mall job. I'd assume that there's a bit of vetting when it comes to the people they hire.
It's like Orange Julius or Microsoft Store.
It's like the Gap or who's open right now. Yeah, I would assume, at least I think, at least on the.
I want to work in the hot dog stand where it's got the rainbow outfit. Do you have that place?
I would think that the Microsoft employees might be, or the Microsoft Store might be a little bit better informed than somebody that would be at Best Buy, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe I'm being optimistic. I know that's a crazy thing on a Microsoft show, optimism. But before we,
hey, even Stephen Elop said this week he was optimistic for the future. So
he has to say that.
It can only go up.
Yeah,